Bollywood to Hollywood with Rampilla. Today we have a special guest from France, producer, director, and you name it, you got it, Olivier Delahaye. Did I say it right, Olivier?
Almost, yes. It's Olivier Delahaye.
Well, there is a famous British actor, Olivier, so I can't be that wrong.
Yeah,
Well, to our audience, welcome to the show. It's my privilege to have you here, especially from France. We never had a French director on our show. To our audience, I'm going to introduce you because you're born in Paris, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you're born in Paris, lived in Paris. Now you live in southern France. And you have a very varied education: law, history, art history, everything else. So I was a lawyer myself, but I don't have your varied background. You did everything that is possible, and you did commercials for 20 years. So we're going to show you, the audience, your one of your commercials, so they know how good you are.
Okay.
Could we run the commercial, first one? No, he is going to run the commercial.
Кто это? Леонид Комаровский, новый любимчик президента. Учился капитализму в Гарварде, теперь работает в Кремле.
А серебряная игрушка? Откуда она?
Французская, называется Клио. Как говорят французы, elle a toute une grande. Говорят, на Западе ее можно увидеть везде.
Везде? Это роскошь везде?
Коммунистический рай.
This is your commercial, the Russian one.
Yes.
And then you have done you done hundreds of them, and you did one with Cindy Crawford too.
But this one was very special because it was the first one we did for Renault Clio. It was the first commercial done for Renault Clio, but more interestingly, it was the first commercial shot in Moscow.
Yes.
For France, and it was shot in Russian, and it was shot during the Glasnost in 90.
Oh, when Mikhail Gorbachev was there.
It was very, very interesting because so we were feeling that the empire was falling apart, but in the meantime, it was the real start of kind of capitalism in
Soviet Union, Russia.
Soviet Union, and it was very interesting because we were feeling that things may really explode, or so it was a good experience.
And then you moved on to the feature films from commercial.
Yes, but 10 years later. But you know, from that, in fact, at the same time, I started to go to shoot commercials in South Africa. Not before, because before Nelson Mandela was in prison. From 90, he was released, so he was freed. So we decided to go to South Africa, and it was a kind of similar experience in South Africa with Russia. So in both countries, we were feeling that something was really happening, that it could go to a disaster. But something more interesting was happening in South Africa. It was that Mandela and the ANC was really having a real philosophy, and they were trying to avoid the bad blast which was going to happen. So that's why I decided to make a feature film there. So it took me 10 years, but it was my first feature film in South Africa.
And then you made a movie, Wooden Camera, right?
It was this film. That we only shot it in 2003, but I've been working on it since 1992.
I see a little bit of a Dickinsonian tinge, you know, Charles Dickens. So when I saw the film, I thought maybe it has the effect of Charles Dickens on you, but maybe without your knowledge or with your knowledge. So I kind of sense you are a little bit conscientious. There is a tinge of political aspect to your artistic aspect, artistic life, from commercial, then moving on to feature films and things like that. You know, I was on hunger strike in India one time, fighting against the caste system. And when I met you in Tunisia, so that made me connect to you more so, especially when we talked about Sorbonne. Do we have that picture of us hunger strike? I was in Sorbonne because of my political activism. So I was very, very interested about Sorbonne. So when I visited Paris, so here we have, that's going back to my political activism back in New Delhi, we have 5 hunger strikers. And then because of that, when I went to Paris, I visited the Sorbonne campus. Can we show? Yeah, so here is the Sorbonne campus. It says Sorbonne University de Paris. I was right across at the campus. There was a store, bookstore. They showed me all the student protest movements, and there was a statue of some professor or somebody there. And that's me smiling before the Sorbonne campus. And then there is also a statue of a liberty. I don't know how. It seems like the French has a love for liberty. So you gave us the Statue of one liberty, so there is a Statue of Liberty there. So my interest is, I was there talking to some people, and I was saying La Révolution, and it seems like people are very much settled, and they said, well, there is no more revolution in France. Kind of disappointed, but so I see. So you were there at the Sorbonne. Could you recapture things from your time?
Yeah, so I was there. I was not at the Sorbonne because I was too young. You know, in May '68, I was 12 years old. But I was living in Paris, and my father was working at an art gallery in Saint-Germain-des-Prés. And Saint-Germain was really, it's close to Sorbonne, and it's really where everything was happening. So we had news every day. A very clear recollection of what was happening at this time. And it was really, even for a little boy like me, who was I was in quite a strict college, and it was a religious college, and it was very funny because also there everything started to move and so on, and it was a delicious time of freedom, of imagination. I remember my father was helping a lot of students of art. Who were bringing to him posters with slogans against de Gaulle, for the revolution, and so on. And it was always full of humor, very artistic, very funny. It was sometimes very incorrect. So it was great. It was really a great time.
Is that how you got into the art instead of going into a law or some other aspect? some of these early things may have influenced you?
No, my involvement in art, in fact, started before that. From when I was 10 years old or 9 years old, I started to go to museums and galleries and so on, and I was spending a lot of time in Louvre and in all the museums and so on. So I was really involved on that. Of course, I also like this this part of the revolution of '68. But you know, we say revolution, but if you compare with our big revolution of 1789, it's something really very, very, very different. Because in '89 and the years after, it was very violent, and many people were killed and so on. And it's absolutely not the case in '68. And I think it's one of the big successes of the revolution of '68 is that really things, the society changed a lot, but there was almost no deaths. I think that during the whole revolution there was only five people who died, and more or less it was more accident than really people killing other people. And it was, I think there was two policemen, two students. On one, it was an accident where nobody knows how, on what exactly happened. And I think it was quite a big success of everybody. So meaning that there was some violence, but also there was, from both sides, the decision was made not to use too much violence and not to kill anybody. And from the beginning, and thanks to, on one side it was Daniel Cohn-Bendit. I don't know if you know.
Daniel. Now he is the president of Green Party, right? He lives in Berlin or something?
Yeah, he lives in France. Or in fact, he lives between France and Germany.
Yeah.
He always lived between France and Germany.
He was kicked out, right? After the revolution or something, he escaped to Berlin.
Yeah, but during the revolution, he did not escape to Berlin. He went to Berlin just after the first week, and then the French government forbid him to come back. Saying you are not French, so you are not allowed to come back to the territory.
Oh.
And one day at the Sorbonne, as there was a big meeting and so on, Cohn-Bendit arrived and he said, "No problem, I don't care about this." And I'm here, and it was a big success for him.
Well, here is a clip about the student protests. We're going to run this clip just to refresh your memory, also to show it to the audience, to refresh their historic memory.
Après plusieurs autres villes aussi différentes que Rome, Berlin-Ouest ou Varsovie, l'agitation étudiante s'est manifestée à Paris. La poussée de fièvre a surpris par son ampleur et le degré de sa violence. Une violence qu'on n'avait pas connue ici depuis longtemps.
So that's, I suppose that refreshes some of your memories, even though it's a clip from '68 May. I have, because we used your student model when we were striking and fighting against Indian caste apartheid. We used your model clearly because the Communist Party said, Indian Communist Party, students are not a revolutionary class. Only workers are revolutionary class. So students can't conduct the revolution. But the French student movement, it was very unique in that the students have joined the workers, even though the Communist Party of France controlling the unions did not encourage them, allow them to participate, but workers anyhow participated. I think that's how your father and others got involved. But kind of they kind of betrayed the struggle, revolution at that time, I think. I don't know, what do you think?
In fact, it really started with the students and not with the workers and so on. Also the syndicates, the union, they were against the movement at the beginning. It was really a student movement. And as you said, also unions were saying that students are not had no political knowledge and so on. So it was not to them to make that kind of thing. But it went very, very quickly, and it was really started with De Gaulle, who was a president at the time. In January '68, he felt that there was something, and something was in the air, and he asked to his Minister of Education to make a kind of report of what was the situation of the students. And so they made what we call a white book. So it was a result of this study about the situation, and it was presented in a university. And at the end of the presentation, so it was the minister who presented that. Daniel Cohn-Bendit went to the minister, and he said, "But I've read your 600 pages, and it's all bullshit. You are not talking about sexuality of the students, and sexuality is for us a main issue." And the guy, he was so astonished that somebody was talking to him like that. I said, "But if you have problem with your sexuality, go on swim in fresh water. It will be good for you." And Cohn-Bendit immediately answered to him, "Oh, it's exactly the kind of answer that you get in a fascist country." And then it was really, because it was so astounding. Nobody had spoken like that to a minister until this day. And it was really showing that something was really happening. And it was here on the student side that things were happening. And it was really very, so that's what made it very, very interesting. So the very interesting thing is that from the beginning, and because so at this time De Gaulle was a president. De Gaulle was always carrying the grandeur of France on his shoulder. He was, but he was not accepting that his authority could be played with like that. So he was ready to get the army killing some students to make them come in order. And thanks to Pompidou, who was at this time the first minister, and with two of his men, he did not make what De Gaulle wanted to do. And he immediately established a link between the Minister of Police and Cohn-Bendit and the other revolutionaries. So they had a phone between them. And from the first day, in fact, they were talking. And Pompidou did not want to have any people killed. So he wanted to get back to some kind of order. But in a way, also, he was feeling that some of the wishes of the students were right. And also those people, I mean the ministers and so on, they had their children among the students and so on. So they were feeling that something had to happen. So, and it was a really good thing that de Gaulle was not, was put a little bit apart by Pompidou, and that it's Pompidou who drove the operation, because with de Gaulle, it would have been a disaster. With Pompidou, it has been, let's say, a kind of dream.
Well, he became a president afterwards, right?
Yes.
Subsequently.
Yes. Yeah.
We have I'm trying to drive my point between these unions and the communists. There was a clip, I think PBS clip. Let me put it on that clip and see, you will understand what I'm talking about. The rift between the Union Communist Party and the students.
Yeah, I will add something about what was said at the end of the previous clip about violence. Because, you know, we were very much shocked effectively by this violence. It was quite violent. But as I said, in 1 month, we had only 5 dead people. 4 years before, or 6 years before, Algerians had, we throw, I mean, when I say we, the police, the French police, throw into the Seine, the river Seine, hundreds of Algerians who died.
Well, they cannot do the same thing to their own kind, right?
Yeah, but it was done in France by the French police, and it was not. So when the guy at the end of the clip you have heard said, "Oh, we have never seen that kind of violence," no, we had seen much more violent things, and it was just a couple of years before.
Well, let's see this clip.
Okay.
The clip is about confrontation, Paris, 1968.
(1968). Industrial societies throughout the world are in ferment following 2 decades of growth and prosperity. As in the early 19th century, unrest begins in urban centers of culture: Berkeley, New York, Tokyo, Rome, Milan, Berlin, Prague. The ferment originates among the marginal, among those considered to be wards and dependents of society. France, the mother country of revolution, seems immune.
So what you got to say for that? The mother country, France. You know, we can go on talking about it for a long time. Absolutely. But I guess we have the time limitation, so we have to stop some point somewhere. So thanks for coming onto my show, and thanks for educating me and our audience about your impressions about Sorbonne and the student revolution and the future, what it may be, especially after this. I mean, something else is happening about this Greece also. Now you have, just with Charlie, now Greece, there is a new leftist government, and they are protesting the economic issues. So we don't know which direction the world is going to go, so especially the Western world. So do you have any last words about that, or should I say thank you and goodbye?
I thank you. I thank you for your interest, and also it would be very interesting to hear more about your protests in India, and it was. I would like to learn more about it. So maybe next time we talk.
I wrote a play about it, Gandhi and Untouchables, but I couldn't put everything there. But it's one day we'll sit down and talk over a cup of, say, a glass of wine. But thank you very much. So let's end this. There was when I went there, the only protest I saw was by sex trade workers. There is a clip. So I was from the balcony. I was. So they were fighting for some equal rights or some trade union rights. Kind of looks odd, feels odd for an American or for a third world person, but it shows your society has gone further than most of the other societies. But thank you very much for being on this show, and thanks for bringing the memories of the Sorbonne live. Until next time, Bollywood to Hollywood. Thank you.
I thank you very much, Raoul. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Après plusieurs autres villes aussi différentes que Rome, Berlin-Ouest ou Varsovie, l'agitation étudiante s'est manifestée à Paris.